Hey everyone, in this video let's talk about PhD. Let's talk about PhD from the point of view of very unorganized person like myself, and from someone who already 2 years into their PhD and just submitted their midterm review, which is the middle milestone of the PhD here in Australia. And also let's talk about the things that I wish I knew before. I would like to start from the brief introduction. I'm doing a PhD in the Australian National University in Canberra in Australia, and I'm studying physical oceanography in the computational modeling space. So my work is heavily related on programming and data analysis, which I'm doing in Python and also working with the supercomputers. Of course, writing, like any PhD in any field. I started my PhD in March 2022, so it's been over 2 years now. And this week I submitted my midterm review and I passed. So I have 1.5 years to go to finish my PhD, and I'm aiming to finish it by publications of papers. So I'm planning to finish my first paper in the next month based on the midterm that I already wrote, and then I will interrupt my PhD for 4 months of the internship in the industry, and then after my return I will work on another 2 projects which will go towards my PhD thesis. I would like to start from one first thing that I faced studying my PhD is the huge imposter syndrome, which I've heard of maybe, and which maybe I experienced before during my masters, but that became a ridiculously huge issue during my PhD. I think because of 2 reasons. First is that when I've started my PhD, I kind of switched the topic. First I switched the area of my study, focusing on the Arctic Ocean before I moved to the Southern Ocean, and also doing research based on observations. During my master thesis, I moved completely to numerical modeling space of oceanography. It's been a steep learning curve for me, and also I think I had this habit of comparing myself to other PhD students within my research group, and PhD students I've seen at the workshops, conferences, and other catch-ups here within Australia and from different universities, and maybe not really sharing how I felt with other people, including PhD students like my peers and my supervisors. I think this imposter syndrome, unfortunately, is very common in academia, and every single one I talk to about that still has this imposter syndrome, regardless of how high in their academic career they are, and how far are they into the research and how much expertise they have. It's just a very common thing, because I think this is the nature of research. The more you learn, the more you know how many things you don't know and how many things you have to learn still. It can be very frustrating, especially in the early stage, especially once you start your PhD. In my experience, when I started my PhD, I also moved countries. So I finished my master's in Finland and moved to Australia straight away. So I also had this long time of exploring, and I was not very focused on my PhD. I was meeting new people, traveling, and socializing a lot, making some small trips around Canberra and further away from Canberra. It was also a part of the problems that I faced then, because I had this probably inner pressure, because my supervisors were pretty chill. They were supportive. We had meetings every week since the very beginning, and they were never telling me that I was doing or going to the wrong direction. But I've been feeling pressure, probably even more from myself than from them, that I'm not doing enough. The things that help, I think, in my experience, the things that help is talking to people and sharing how you feel in terms of your PhD and in terms of this imposter syndrome that you have. It's better to discuss it, because the more you share with the more people you share, the more you realize that actually everyone experiences the same thing. it's not new. You are not the only one, you are not the first one, and people just go through this. And further you go, I think the more coping mechanisms you have. But the thing that helps certainly is sharing this with others and hearing that actually you're not the one in this trap. Everyone feels the same. 9 out of 10 people would think that the same way as you do. I've been thinking that I'm the dumbest. I've been feeling that I don't deserve the scholarship that I've got to do my PhD. I always think that I am probably not showing the best results and not progressing as fast as much other students, etc. I've been feeling that my computational skills are not enough for doing this. I've been doing many errors, many mistakes. But the thing is that you need to share these mistakes and errors as well, at least with your supervisor, to get some help, or talking to people who are experienced in that, and asking questions. I was afraid of asking questions because I was scared to look stupid and feel embarrassed, and I think this is also one thing that probably delayed my progress at some point, because I was too reserved, too shy, and too scared of asking questions. I just want to give one example. Recently I submitted my midterm, which I said already is the middle milestone of the PhD here. I submitted it the latest time possible, so not within a year and a half since I started, but within 2 years. And also I've been on a voyage in the Southern Ocean for like 5 weeks just before the New Year's, so I didn't really work during that time. And after I got back, I had like a short holiday, and in the end of February, I had to submit my midterm, and in March I had to give the presentation, kind of midterm review defense. I didn't really have much time, and I started working on that towards the end of January, and then I also got distracted with some personal things. I had 2 gigs because I do DJing as well, so I had 2 gigs where I had to perform and prepare for them, so it also took some time and energy from me. To be honest, most of the work for my midterm I've done in the last 14 to 10 days before my midterm. I was set a deadline, and I was stressed because just 3 days before the deadline, I think I found the mistake in my code that I thought that will change my results completely, and I had to I thought that I had to kind of change the whole narrative of my research, and it was just a disaster. When I found that mistake, it threw me out so much that I barely could do anything on that day. I just rerun the code, I fixed the mistake, I rerun the code, and while I was waiting, I was just talking to my friends on the phone and saying how dumb I feel and how actually unorganized, and I was just beating myself up. And then after I fixed that mistake, I found that the results were not changed, but I just realized how unorganized I am, and I started beating myself up for that. I was telling myself, Paulina, you should have done this earlier, you should have polished all the figures earlier, you should have done that, you should have done that, you should have done that. But the thing is that I haven't. And it's not an end of the world, kind of, but I was just very harsh on myself and harsh on everyone around, because I was so stressed and I was panicking. But in the end, and also I went through all the stages. I was panicking. I was talking to other PhD students in my group who already finished their PhD or no, and every single one was telling me that the midterm was stressful, that they were not very satisfied, that they didn't have conclusive results by their midterm, they didn't have a paper ready for publishing before the midterm, which is kind of an aim, that you need to have a paper almost ready for publishing by the time you submit your midterm. I haven't had any of those, and of course I was stressed, but then I was talking to the people and they passed their midterms, and they were telling me that they've been feeling the same basically. And then I spoke about that with my supervisors, and supervisors asked me, so what did they tell you about their midterms? Because they knew their students, it was their previous students. And I told them, and the supervisors told me that they remember things completely not as bad actually as students described to me. So, and it also made me think that we perceive things actually in we picture much worse scenarios, and we perceive things worse than they are. I think many of us are harsh on ourselves, and talking and sharing this actually helps, because you start seeing that you're not the only one, and probably if somebody else experiences the shit that you do, it means that there is nothing wrong with you. It's kind of universal thing, and maybe you should need to be a bit softer and a bit gentle to yourself and not beat yourself up. Sharing things, talking to a supervisor, have maybe PhD catch-ups, or have one or two friends who in your PhD community who can you all to openly, honestly kind of share your feelings, and most likely 99.9% you would find the support from there. Another things that I learned during the last couple of weeks while I was preparing my midterm is that I lost all my organizational skills in these 2 years, because in my master's, when I had these short-term deadlines, because assignments had to be submitted every single week, projects were not lasting more than 3 weeks, so I had short deadlines. It was very intense, but because of this intensity, I actually was organized, I was productive, and I was not distracted, because I knew that I don't have much time. But during your PhD, when you actually think that your end aim is in 4 years ahead, your brain starts kind of drifting and think that, oh, actually I have so much time, I can take a day off today, I cannot go to the office today, etc., which is allowed, it's fine. But even on the days when I'm planning to work, I sometimes procrastinate, or I don't have specific tasks to do, and I'm just messy. And in this mess, I lose focus and I start procrastinating. Two things that helped me. First, I built my own routine, which is not the same as everyone else's, because it's mine, and it took me 2 years. Because first thing, when I started my PhD, I started kind of doing what everyone was doing. Everyone was coming to the office 5 to 9 and working from office, which I thought that it's a good thing, because it kind of keeps you focused, because there are people around, you can't get distracted. And every time I was staying home, I was drifting even more. But then I realized that, for instance, because I have very slow morning routine, and in the mornings I wake up, I do yoga, I have breakfast at home all the time, then I spend 30 to 40 minutes for commuting to campus, and by the time I get to the office, my brain is already full of other things. It's really difficult for me to get back to this kind of flow and work state, and it takes time. So during the times when I had intense work and I was preparing for a conference or something, I actually realized that for me it works better if I wake up and I go to work straight away. So I make myself a mug of coffee and I start working at home. And then in a few hours, when I get hungry, I do breakfast, I do this yoga, which I always do in the mornings, and then I might go to the office. Then in the office, I also realized that my group is very social, and they go for lunch together every single day. And kind of it's not the obligatory, but I always was going with them. And then I started realizing that it distracts me. If I am in this flow state, or even if I'm not, but I aim to finish something, I don't want to have 1 hour lunch and then maybe half an hour coffee with everyone. I just need to stay maybe at my desk, or just have very short lunch somewhere else by myself, and that's it. Another thing, during these 2 years I moved places a couple of times. So I changed 3 apartments and shared houses. Not in every place I had a nice study place where I was comfortable to work, and only in this current place where I'm now, I built my kind of office desk and everything, and it's comfortable for me. And I realized that I actually enjoy working from home more, because when my brain starts drifting and wants to procrastinate, instead of going on my phone and just scrolling, which the only thing I can afford in the office, I can actually go to the gym and do something useful that will clear my brain, that will actually give me some endorphins, because exercise is a good for everyone. I started like hacking myself this way, and every time I was like 15 minutes I'm out, I'm on the phone, and I was like, Paulina, it's actually a good time to go to the gym or do work out at home or go for a walk or take a skate and go to a skate park for half an hour, something like this. And because research is so intense and this like intellectual work is intense, physical exercises actually help me, and I know it works for 90% of people. They help clear the mind and switch the focus. You need sometimes to get up from your chair and stop thinking about things you're doing and just like focus on something else, and exercises work perfectly for that. So I built my own routine. I'm working from home. I get up, I go straight to work. After a few hours, when I get hungry, I'm doing yoga, I'm making breakfast. I also started meditating, and working from home allows me to do this during the day, even if I'm in a super cool flow state and I'm working and I feel like, I don't want to distract, I will skip this meditation and then we'll do it later when my brain like needs a break. And the same with the gym, or I can cook from home. I don't need to make meal preps. I don't need to prepare lunch the night before because I can just cook whatever at home. So it actually great for me. Working from home is great for me, and I realized I'm more productive, and it took me 2 years to understand that, because I was repeating after everyone, doing what everyone was doing, which didn't work for me, unfortunately. And I wish I played with these routine setups more and earlier, and maybe I could try different routines every 2 weeks, and then I would find that actually working from home is the best for me. But it is what it is, 2 years in. Another thing that helped me is actually I brought back all those organizational self-discipline things that I lost after my master's, because when I started my PhD I was too excited about moving to Australia, about the new country, about meeting new people, friends, events, etc., that I didn't really pay much attention to my PhD, and it's also normal. Every international student I talk to here, after they moved countries, after they moved here to Australia to start their PhD, everyone was saying, first year I've been just traveling and drinking, because this is what you do when you move to a new country. You just want to learn, you just want to find new friends, everything is interesting, everything is new, and it's all right. I now I don't feel like I did anything wrong, but at that time I was pressuring myself and I felt guilty. But I'm fine now. I submitted my midterm, everything is good. Yeah, it's been a bit delayed, but not only for the reason that I was traveling for during the first year. So the second thing is self-discipline and organization. And what worked for me is something that I've been doing before, and that's something that I managed to bring it back. Because when I look at when I watch these videos from successful PhD students who do PhD, work full-time somewhere else, all at once, they have their own system, it looks perfect, it's too difficult for me to adopt. It's someone else's. I can't really start from scratch and implement everything they talk about. I get bit by bit from different places. Even during my master's, I think the thing that worked for me in the intense periods of work is that I was planning the day ahead. The night before, I was planning the next day. I thought about the things that I have to accomplish in the next day, the night before, not in the morning where I get up and kind of start thinking, what am I supposed to do today? No, just the day before, I spent 20 minutes of thinking, actually, what should I do for my work? Maybe on the weekend, I would also suggest myself 3 to 4 things that I need to finish during the week. And then it will be easier for me to plan the day. When I plan this, I plan it on my paper. So I have paper organizer where I write things that I want to do the next day. And then looking at these things, I actually start making a schedule for the day in electronic calendar. I even put things that are not my work related. I put things like, here I am having breakfast. At this time I'm gonna have lunch. At this time I'm gonna go to do groceries, and this time I'm gonna do gym. This time I'm gonna do dinner, and this time I'm gonna wind down and go to bed. Because if I only fill the calendar with things I need to do for my work, my brain feels like it's too scary because I don't have time for anything else. So I actually plan time where I can do something that I enjoy, and it works. And in this video I don't want to like overload you and like show you how do I do my organizer, how do I plan my everyday, show you my calendar. I just want you to think. Maybe you've watched all these videos of super organized people and you already know all the things, all the ways you can be more organized. You know about this system like getting things done, etc., all your inboxes, etc., etc. Maybe you already know that some things work better for you than others. I think it's very personal thing, the way we organize our work and the way that we organize our routine. And I just realized that I can't adopt anyone else's routine. I need to explore it myself, maybe based on all the things that I've heard from other people. I need to experiment what works better for me, and then I will kind of stick to that and it will work. I just wanted to share with you that if you're not an organized person and if you watch all these videos from people who doing like several degrees at a time and full-time job and make a YouTube channel, you probably feel overwhelmed because you think that you need to learn so many things just to be able to time manage yourself. But I don't want to do that, and I also want to tell you that I also feel overwhelmed when I watch these videos and when I see these people. And I don't believe that I can be that person, but actually I can be organized in my own way. In my unorganized way, I can be organized and I can smash things. I also realized that unfortunately I'm the person who is doing everything in the very last minute, and I'm stressed, I'm panicking, I'm harsh on myself during this intense period of very short time when I try to smash things. And I always regret that I haven't done that and that before. I always learn how the things could be better, and I do notes for myself. And I've done it now during my midterm because I literally did this midterm in the very last 2 weeks before I had to submit it. And it wasn't ideal. It was hard for everyone, hard for my partner. But I've learned so much, and now I actually see that I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that person. I want to pace my work better, and I realize that I need pressure to be productive, but I have to break this big task to a smaller ones and maybe even ask my supervisor to actually, this is going to be my deadline, please make sure that you remind me that, hey Paulina, you actually have a deadline, and it's not just my own one. You're also like, you are expecting me to finish this will create a little bit of pressure for me, and I will be alright. We really agreed on that actually, because everyone saw that I did a big progress, like huge progress in the last month or so. They also learned that I'm the person who needs pressure, but they're not very pressuring people because they're not very strict and they're quite chill, but they probably saw that it works for me, and they told me I just need to discuss for my next project. I just need to discuss the outline of the project prior to, and then create like deadlines for myself and time it very well instead of doing everything in the last moment, because I'm just thinking how many things could have been done better if I, for instance, plot that figure earlier. I would learn that thing earlier, and then I would have more time to read about that, and I would have a better discussion section, for instance. I'm a mess. I am unorganized, but at the same time I just passed the midterm this week, and I'm sure that there's so many people probably like me, disorganized, like anxious, and with huge imposter syndrome, beating themselves up for not doing enough, for not doing good enough. I just want to say, hi, it's me, and you're gonna be alright. It's gonna be hard. If you leave everything for the last minute, it's gonna be hard. You're gonna work really hard, but you still can make it. You probably won't listen to everything what I've said. You probably won't listen to everything what have been said by other people, supervisors, peers, etc. You will learn your hard way, and maybe this is the way, It's not a disaster. And looking back now, I'm just realizing how harsh I've been on myself throughout these 2 years of my PhD. I always thought that I was too dumb for that, and I'm not smart enough, don't deserve the scholarship that I get. I'm not smart enough compared to other people, etc., etc. But now looking back and comparing my self now to myself like 2 years ago or even a year ago, I see the progress. I can tell that I'm actually learned in this steep learning curve. I actually reached this plateau where I can work more productive just because I've learned so much, and things that was taking 2 days for me to accomplish now I can make in 1 day or in a few hours, because I'm talking about coding. I reckon if you learn and it's really hard to see the progress, as soon as you reach some milestone and you will look back to yourself in the past, you will see that you actually done huge progress, which is great, and which is actually great to admit and give yourself credit for that. How many minutes? Oh, half an hour. Okay. I'm gonna present this video as a podcast because this is certainly a length of a podcast, and I'm very happy that I did that. I want to talk more about the PhD in the future, and in a month I'm gonna start internship in the industry, which I also think it's a great opportunity to do during your PhD if you have a chance. And yeah, see you next time.